We are now pleased to present our final session of the conference. This is Distinguished Scholar session. The session begins with the presentation by Professor Charon Kim from Kyung University and moderated by Professor Chunmo Koo, also from Kyung University. Our panelists are Professor Haiyan Song from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, Dimitris Boualis from the Bournemouth University, Zheng Xiang from the Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, Fab Giacomus from the University of South Carolina, and Professor Gang Li from Deakin University. And we also have the online panelist, Professor Xiang Li from Chinese University of Hong Kong, and last, Professor William Hunter from Kyung University.
So Professor Gu asked me to make a presentation this one, so providing me airfare accommodation. So without thinking about anything, I accept. So it's offer, but I think I made a mistake because my memory ability is weakening, and also my context maybe it seems to you is relatively old. Also, I try to, my old is a competitive model, whether it's a current technological trends, helping by AI. But really, frankly speaking, is I don't get it. So probably you will have a different perspective on building a competitiveness model, also including is competitiveness indicators. I change my presentation context a little bit. I changed the title, like the revisited destination competitiveness. What? Why? How? And you know very well, it's most scholar and a practitioner have an interest in developing competitiveness model and indicators. Having said that, none of that is not perfect. It's not. All people do not agree with that. Even though recently, World Economic Forum developed TTCI, also TTDI, which emphasize on sustainable, inclusive, and resilient way for the tourism economies. But there's a lot of people also complain about the modern indicators. Anyway, because having some sense of a problem, I would like to make a presentation. It's what's going to be a destination competitiveness model indicator in terms of facing this digital transformation. AI is a transformation issue. 2003 maybe, Richard Crouch mentioned that what makes destination truly competitive is the ability to increase destination expenditure, to increasingly attract visitors while providing them with a satisfying, memorable experience, and to do so in a profitable way. Well, what about you say? Anyway, is to enhance destination ability to attract visitors and generate, economic benefits, and also providing socio-economic prosperity for local residents and its stakeholders. Originally, concept of competitiveness concept was initiated by Michael Porter, who is a professor at Harvard University. He invented a diamond model, with also it's a double diamond model, including factor conditions, demand condition, relative industry, something like that. When you look at it's a concept, of competitiveness. It is a multidimensional, relative, and dynamic and complexity concept to strive for superiority. So Michael Porter applied his concept to the firms, industry, and countries. Having said that, there are some issue in order for tourism practitioner or academician to adopt his concept. So I have been involved in developing indicators and model so for the tourism competitiveness. Actually, I did work with Professor Leigh Dwyer in Australia, supported by government of Korea and the government of Australia. As I made some definition for the competitiveness, but I will skip that one. Anyway, there are a lot of model indicators reflecting competitiveness issue. WEF, World Economic Forum, IMD, International Management Development, is looking at this national competitiveness. Also TTCI, and initiated by World Economic Forum. Also recently, TTDI, Travel and Tourism Development Index, something like that. Also a lot of people focused on city and regional areas. But in our areas, so Crown Ritchie and Dreyer focus on tourism destination competitiveness issue. It's a long time ago. But recently, when you look at this evolution of literature review regarding destination competitiveness issue, only models until 2015 is some scholars established the foundation of framework emphasizing visitor satisfaction, expenditure, sustainability, but lacking comprehensive digital integration, something like that. It's also since post-pandemic, Bohalis and Gratchel introduced a smart destination concept. Also, Professor Gu and Professor Zheng invented some smart destination competitiveness issue. Recently, some scholars emphasized digital transformation as a core competitiveness pillar, integrating Internet of Things, blockchain, immersive technology into the destination management strategy. Anyway, in relation with the topic that is the World Tourism, Smart Tourism Conference this today and yesterday, I think a key insight, if I say destination competitiveness, true competitiveness lies in attracting visitors while providing a memorable experience profitably, enhancing resident well-being, preserving natural capital, now amplified through digital capability, I think. So I think it's all panels will, I think it's have a different, a lot of profound perspective on that issue. As you know very well, so living in a digital era of digital transformation. When you look at the digital transformation journey, usually any destination build a digital infrastructure, and they set up some smart service. Also, they take advantage of some technology, it's a data intelligence. It can lead to the enhanced experience. So destination will have a more competitive. So, but when you look at in detail about current destination system, in terms of destination receptive system, there are many challenges and then problem issue here. First of all, it's a fragmented digital adoption. It's a digital divide, something like that. Uneven implementation of digital technology across a destination actually creates this competitive disparity, digital expert experience, inconsistency. Also, data integration issue big challenges. It's a lack of standardized metrics, interoperable system actually hinder comprehensive performance monitoring and strategic decision making. Also, this is, I think, is a critical issue. Sustainability trade-offs, balancing tourism growth with environmental preservation remains challenging, particularly as a digital platform enable mass tourism scalability. So there is, I think, is a serious challenge. Anyway, we reflect digital transformation technology in a destination competitiveness model. It can be a more innovative approach. It's I call that a digital enhanced receptive capacity. We can create some virtuous cycle to attract more visitors, make a profit, and then improve, destination facility infrastructure such as accommodation, something like that. I think we got to focus on new model and indicators reflecting it's a current technological advancement to develop as a destination competitiveness issue, but there are preconditions here. Some point should be is considered. We can think about all the times that demand and supply factor will be very, very important. So to look at the destination competitiveness. Also, destination competitiveness is concept is very complex, relative, multi-dimensional concept. They have it's a double-edged, it's a meaning, also attribute. So we got to think about all the time good solution. Also, competitiveness of a destination can be handled from different perspectives of different stakeholders. We need various perspectives. It's because each region, each destination has each their own identities and something like that. So proper indicators of destination competitiveness include maybe, absolutely, economic indicator, social indicator, and technological indicator, which cannot be objectively measured. The different approach is required for each indicator measurement. We need frameworks on qualitative and quantitative indicators. Actually, we'll also suggest criteria for integrating appropriate indicator to measure destination competitiveness. I developed this model reflecting some trends, even though it's technological trends. It's a few years ago. It was it took a long time to develop this model. Actually, the indicators include about more than 100 indicators from high level of indicators, 500 high level indicators like resource collection, value creation, sustainability, inclusive growth, and policy implementation. I will not go in detail in this one. So I defined destination competitiveness model. What is it about that? I call that capability to establish a sustainable destination system and induce inclusive growth through collecting destination resource, creating destination value, implementing effective destination as a policy in the destinations here. Here is the 5 concept criteria, destination competitiveness. I will skip this one. It's all indicators here. It's a conceptual model. And then based on developing new destination competitiveness model and indicators, I got some implication from those indicators or models. We can contribute to activating quality for the destination. We can contribute to promoting self-reinforcing destination capacity, contribute to implementing strategy and action plan. Actually, the purpose that I developed a destination competitiveness model is to evaluate, measure, and then consult the destinations based on the data, as eventually will achieve enhancing destination competitiveness here. Really sorry about that. I will not go in detail about this issue because we don't have enough time. We're going to discuss about this issue later on. Anyway, the model developed here can form the basis for the conceptual and empirical research. Perhaps major thrust of the required research agenda is to explore the role of demand side factor in comparing competitiveness of different regions as different destinations. So substantial amount of empirical research is needed to develop a suitable measure of destination. So competitiveness from viewpoint of different types of stakeholders with their different needs and motivation. So the greater is our knowledge about the interrelationship between the destination performance, destination receptive capacity attributes, the more useful and applicable can be destination competitiveness framework to policymaker and private sector stakeholders, actually, which are interested in enhancing resident to socio-economic prosperity from destination industries. This is the last page of my presentation in terms of thinking about new technological trends. Our competitive model, even police say that it's our technology, AI, something like it should be reflected in a new model. We're gonna think about in detail, in depth about the new model. Last year, I taught a marketing course using Marketing 5.0 and 6.0, written by Philip Kotler. When I look at the Marketing 6.0, really there is a spatial marketing with a proximity marketing and contextual marketing, something like that. And it's going to be applied to our tourism industry. Those contexts may be reflected in the future destination competitiveness model, something like that. So I'm going to point out that 4 points for the discussion. We gotta explore demand side factor, thinking about digital transformation issue. So comprehensive research is needed to understand how digital behavior, expectation, and engagement of parents influence original destination competitiveness comparison across the diverse visitor segments. Also, we gotta develop stakeholder measurement. Substantial empirical work must be developed suitable competitiveness measure reflecting different stakeholder perspective, residents, business, visitors, the evolving digital interactions. Also, we gotta evaluate digital impact. We gotta investigate the relationship between digital transformation initiate and traditional competitiveness outcome, establishing causal link and best practice. Also, we gotta enhance policy application. The greater knowledge of interrelationship between tourism performance, respective capacity attribute, including digital readiness, makes framework more useful for policymaker and the stakeholders seeking to enhance socioeconomic prosperity sustainably. I did not write down here on the indicators that made by TDDI, Travel and Tourism Developed Index. TDDI actually emphasizes on, as I mentioned before, it's a sustainable, inclusive, resilient issue, very, very important for tourism industry. Also, they reflected the term ICT readiness, something like that. Probably Professor Hyun Song may be involved in those projects, maybe. This concept the process is very complicated. It's on purpose. I try to make it short because we don't have time, but we're going to discuss about this issue for the further development. Thank you so much for listening. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Chol-won Kim. He is an emeritus professor of Kyunghee University, and he said he retired 3 years ago, but his brain is still active, which means we have to use his brain until his memory is gone away. So this is a tribute album or tradition, presentation for him as a junior faculty to the senior faculty. You know what? I made this conference. Why? Because I made whatever I want to make. If I enter that conference, I have to ask them to, please, here I can do. Anyway, it's kidding. Okay, anyway, I'm inviting very important figure for this conference, and really important, from all over the world in virtual and physical together. First of all, Gangli Deakin University. He actually, recently he published the Destination Competitiveness Assisted by AI. So he is a newly emerging researcher for competitiveness. Please welcome, come here. And once again, recycling Professor Hyun Song. Please welcome to here. You are great accumulated knowledge we have to learn from you. You know what, actually, as with the development of AI, it's really necessary accumulated knowledge, and AI is much more impactful, powerful. So it's accumulated research. And third, the named in the world, Dmitry Boris. Hey! Again, reusable today, Zhang Xiang from, come down to, it's my dogger. And the absent, Bernard Johnson, he has personal lesion and absent. And from Fevch Okmus, University of South Carolina. Wow. Fevch, I feed you the lunch, very delicious lunch. For what? This presentation. And again, reusable, our critical asset, Uli Gracha, University of Southern California. And Catherine Koo, she's pretty much the expert on the gender equality and editor-in-chief tourism management perspective. Okay, and Professor Kim, please come down to keep talking. Okay, I see. And from online, we have an online invitation, laboratory. Hello, hello there. Okay, thank you very much again. Once again, you are attending here from a distance, Hong Kong, from a distance. Another, please turn on the microphone. We are all set? Okay. So I'm a moderator of this multidisciplinary and important the professor and researcher to discuss the destination competitiveness, which is the topic is very critically important for destination and traditionally, the city, urban town, and travelers actually visiting the city and urban town to enjoy their life rather than, countryside is okay, but destination can be city and the urban town. And then destination topic is originally a core concept of tourism industry. Actually, Professor Kim, if he's searching the Google Scholar, his paper is cited over 1,000 and 100,000 in the 3 or 4 papers. It's a long time ago, 20 years ago, with his colleague, right? So it's his knowledge, depth of knowledge and breadth of knowledge on destination competitiveness actually still very effective to formulate destination strategy and strengths of destination. Actually, my major is MIS, so I study about the competitiveness from the business study. So Michael Porter's general strategy of competitiveness, and Jay Barney about the resource-based view on competitiveness. So those, the research framework actually is very effective and powerful. And I have to move to this field, and it's surprising. Here is a destination competitiveness. So once again, I'm asking the Gang Lee, can you, why you jump into the destination competitiveness study with AI? Can you explain a little bit about the new concept and AI?
Yeah. Actually, we move into this area because we found that nowadays when we are doing research, the method of doing research has been changed. There was a concept called the fourth paradigm of science discovery. That means most of our nowadays research, we can leverage the resources available for us, and especially also leverage those kind of capacity of AI. They can help us to do many of the things. So when one of our PhD students joined my team, I think actually is Dr. Haiyang Xia. He will be in University of Macau very soon as an assistant professor. We found that there's one area, there are a lot of data available, but existing research that didn't utilize these kind of, say, resources. And then we feel there are a lot of interesting things can be done, but not yet completed. So we just formulate a research problem in this area we call user perspective, that's destination competitiveness. And from there, we have a number of works from there.
Okay, thank you. And continue, Professor Song. You said you study on the economics.
Yes.
And economics is study on the national and regional and city
Competitiveness.
Okay. So can you explain a little bit about the economic point of view and destination competitiveness?
Actually, I'm in the same page as Professor Kim. I read Professor Kim's articles in the past. Actually, I have done two or three articles on destination competitiveness and industry competitiveness, which were published some years ago. I'm also on the advisory panel to World Economic Forum. They used to develop destination competitiveness index, but no longer. They actually give up the idea because of the complexity. Basically, if you want to compare the competitiveness of different destinations, you have to consider the destination's resources and also their national development priority, governance, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. It's almost impossible to measure the competitiveness across globe, compare different destinations, because the priorities are completely different. So they now actually develop index called Destination Development Index. So they are looking at the tourism development instead of competitiveness, because it's almost impossible. And also the World Tourism, called UN Tourism now, also is developing a destination development index similar to the World Economic Forum. Actually, I was also involved in the development of that index. So economically, it's very, very difficult to measure the destination competitiveness. But if you're looking at individual destinations, you want to look at how attractive or competitive is. You may looking at it from demand perspective, as Professor Lee mentioned, taking care both demand and supply side factors. Actually, my latest paper on destination competitiveness is looking at it from the consumer perspective, tourism perspective, right? How attractive that destination is. So I'm using the productivity and efficiency and also happiness as a measure of destination competitiveness from the consumer perspective. This is a try, not necessarily will be accepted widely in the community, but it's just a different perspective.
Wow, it's a great point of view, economic point, and here's newly latest paper here introduced, which is very important papers. And I'm keep asking to the Dr. Boyles, you are the editor of the Tourism Review, and these days a lot of people are so highly interested in publishing papers. So we are keen on the individual level of publication. So receiving the questionnaire from individual tourists, and rather than the form level or rather than destination level, which is tough to collect data and tough to writing up data. So what do you think about actually destination competitiveness is a critical theme for tourism industry and tourism academia, but it's hard to study. So what's your opinion about the destination competitiveness in the timing of changing to the new era?
Can I answer his question? I like Ian's question more. So let's go back for a second. The paper that I published in 2000, the competitiveness destination of the future, which actually a lot of people don't know, it was mainly my master's dissertation, is the most cited paper in tourism management.
Oh.
And it's showing the basis of Porter's strategic analysis, competitive advantage, and then a lot of the things that happen after that are based on this paper. Is how can you make a destination smart, and how can you use technology to make the destination smart so you can improve the competitiveness. And now the next stage is how do you make a destination agile, and how do you make a destination AI ready? And that is complicated. And what this paper put together for the first time, and that's the area where people a lot A lot of people, when they write about destinations, they think that it's one entity, and they end up talking about national tourism organizations or regional tourism organizations. What that paper said is that effectively a destination is not only a tourism organizations, but it's the amalgam of all the organizations that are operating in a destination, plus their distributors and everything else. That's why it's difficult. Now, as far as tourism review is concerned, we desperately want to publish papers like this, partly because they'll be incredibly useful and very cited, and partly because they have got a holistic approach. The vast majority of the papers that we get in tourism review are effectively looking to the tree rather than the forest. So people are going out, they're collecting one sample or two kind of surveys, and they're coming back using some techniques to analyze that. And they are very good at explaining relationship between little things, but they are not very good at explaining why. And any of you who would like to publish in tourism review will probably have noticed that I really like the big picture. I really like the big forest. And to do that, you need to have a very good understanding across the entire network. And if we're talking about technology and smartness and AI, you need to understand how the business operate, how the technology operate, and how you can improve the competitiveness of both. So two sides on the answer. The first one is really competitiveness of destinations have been emerging with technology becoming the infrastructure for this. The second thing is, if you would like to publish in tourism review, you are more likely to publish papers that they are looking to the big forest rather than papers that they're just measuring relationship.
Thank you very much. Dmitry and Cholon Kim, he has a long history of competitiveness and who has tons of substantial contribution to the competitiveness in the field. So still we are the fastly changing stage from application-based to the AI-based. So the following question to the Zhang Xiang, why we need to keep revolutionizing destination competitiveness framework? For what?
I don't know. You know, yes. Maybe let me say something. You know, maybe controversial. I don't know whether it's worthwhile to keep updating the concept. You know, for me, my focus is on understanding technology, right? Both frameworks, competitiveness or smart destination, smart tourism, they are meant to be references, right? This is about where we want to be, right? They're about capacity building, right? Especially when you look at the notion of smart tourism is really about looking at how technology actually can be used to change, to make things better, right? Accessibility, mobility, creativity, sustainability, right? So there's a value kind of to build into the framework, right? The value is, you know, I guess it's more multidimensional than just being, oh, I want to be competitive, right? Competitive, I feel, is a bit narrowly kind of the focus. Let me, you know, for me, I think this is something that could be controversial. And when we look at competitiveness, I feel, yes, it's more comprehensive than smartness because it also integrates resources, right? And smart destination doesn't take into, for example, natural endowed resources. That's the kind of you know, because it's not meant to be like that. But destination competitiveness speaks about what's given, what can we build on top of that, which I think is a little bit more broader than so-called smartness, right? But also what's missing there is also,
competitiveness actually happens not in the vacuum. Actually, there should be a temporal kind of the spatial dimension to it, right? Competitive in terms of what? How do you compare, destination with other destinations? The market changes, the demand side changes, right? If you think about COVID, right? When COVID happens, nothing is competitive, right? Maybe there's still competitiveness among the domestic destinations if they think about China in the big market, right? US, but international travels stops instantly. Why are we talking about competitiveness? So I know this is not my area, like in terms of competitiveness, but I just want to kind of give my personal view, and I hope I can maybe provoke some arguments, pushbacks, if you want.
Okay. It's a very provocative question from me to Dr. Xiang. And anyway, in terms of destination competitiveness, I choose Macau because of destination competitiveness. 1 year ago, I'm thinking about, okay, where do I choose the destination for World Smart Tourism Conference on Smart Tourism? Hong Kong is too expensive, I think, and as a neighboring country. And I'm thinking about the people where they like to visit. And from just a 4-hour, 5-hour distance. So I'm thinking about okay, Macau, Hong Kong, and Guangzhou, and Osaka, and Jeju, and Busan, and sort of things. So I think it's a competitiveness is from competitiveness is kind of a choice of destination. So we cannot say exactly the intangible, tangible resource of competitiveness, but we feel and perceive, wow, I want to go Macau for the conference because the using of a conference, I want to enjoy the Macau. That's absolutely, yes, I'm losing money in 10 minutes, $1,000. Okay, my question, Uli, you and I published the Smart Tourism Cities. Actually, we have published the Smart Tourism 2015. We realized, okay, in order to realize smart tourism in destination, actually we need a place, ground place, that is a smart cities. Smart tourism and smart cities should be combined for getting more competitiveness. So what you think about how can your notion of you design that smart tourism cities in terms of competitiveness?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things I thought about the presentation was really how this competitive notion has moved away from just competitiveness in terms of attracting tourists to competitiveness really to providing a high quality living area to people. And I think with that paper, that's what we were trying to get at, that smartness is not about just serving tourists, it's serving workers, it's serving the residents at a destination too. So how can we build that into a model? And but going back to Phil's comment as well, what is this competitiveness for? Like, does it really motivate development in the right direction? And so I don't know when it was, probably 2000 or so, we wrote a paper actually about a benchmarking system for destinations in the state of Illinois. And it turned out that they actually absolutely hated the comparisons because the good destinations actually had nothing to gain from this comparison because they they were being compared to the destinations that were not doing well at all, right? So yeah, okay, they could say, okay, we're better, but there was no insight to be gained. And on the other hand, the mediocre kind of destinations could say then, okay, we're doing okay, right? So then it kind of stopped their development. And I think that's the danger of these indices and the competitiveness models, where, yeah, maybe the way they are being used is more for political reasons, to either, celebrate achievements or to kind of like justify what they're already doing. It's not very often that they're used for learning and capacity building. And so I think on the smartness side, I haven't seen any big efforts to really combine the smart tourism and smart city efforts. And so unfortunately, I think we have still a lot of work to do to make that happen.
Yeah. Okay, as a following question to Catherine, I don't know how much you are interested in the destination competitiveness, but you are editor-in-chief of tourism management perspectives. So I think you must have perspective toward on destination competitiveness. What's your opinion about that?
I'll do better than that. So one of my PhD students actually worked on this, and we were looking at how Australia was trying to be competitive in terms of how it shows itself to the world as a gastronomy destination. And they were looking at competing with France, for example. Why do people say that, Yeah. So we were doing all these things, and the paper was on a perception gap for stakeholders. So there is one way that the government thinks that it can be competitive as a gastronomy destination, but what they were ticking off as their critical success factors that they think that they've done well, the stakeholders who are the restaurateurs and the celebrity chefs, they didn't agree that we have done very well. So even though we can, at the government level, you can say that you're doing very well, but your stakeholders don't agree. Similarly, I agree with Phil when you say, competitive for who and in what aspects. So I just completed a consultancy project for the government of Bhutan for their tourism strategy, and they are not looking at competitiveness. They just want to be good as a destination. And they want to be a destination known for wellness and well-being. And that is their competitive point, if you like. Yeah.
Yes. You just mentioned the keyword, very good term, well-being, wellness, and hospital. Well-being, wellness, hospitality for, aging society is definitely very important, dimension of, competitiveness. Dr. Fevci, you are the editor of the International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality Management. So you are not the editor of the tourism side, but the hospitality side. So in terms of a hospitality perspective, can you say about your opinion, competitive advantage and competitiveness?
Okay, I respectfully disagree with you. I have another journal, Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Insights. It's a Q1 journal. It's a tourism side as it has. And when we teach strategic management, we don't separate hospitality from tourism. It's all together. Mm-hmm. When you look at businesses, you cannot separate a business from a destination, a company from destination. It's a holistic approach, okay? When you look at competitiveness, you first need to discuss, are you really looking at competitiveness for tourists, for local residents, and for governments or for businesses? So it's a different stakeholders you need to look at. and we always, like, we have all these destination competitiveness models in hospitality and tourism, but if you really dig down, they go back to strategic management theories, resource-based view, positioning view, Porter's positioning view, resource-based view, knowledge management theories, and all those things, and then Porter's destinations competitive advantage, and you can find all those theories, and they transferred everything. But it's a dynamic concept, definitely you need to look at. What I would like to say for destination competitiveness, we often ignore is the competition, right? When you look at successful destinations, I've been living in Orlando for the past 20 years. Orlando is an example, great example of competition. Businesses, there are best hotels in Orlando. They compete with each other based on price, but based on quality. But when it comes to innovation, they always innovating. Theme parks, Disneyland, Universal, SeaWorld, they're competing with each other, expanding, bringing new products. When they compete, they innovate, and more tourists come, more hotels, more restaurants, okay? But when something is needed for Orlando, they come together, they're all good friends, and they do everything to bring more tourists, to solve a problem, work with politicians, and try everything. So competition is really, really important when we look at competitiveness. That's another thing. And then we often, when we discuss competitiveness in a destination, we also need to focus on clustering strategies. Hospitality and tourism industry is not an industry works individually in a silo. It's connected to so many other industries, all right? So if the transportation industry, if the banking industry, construction industry, all other industries are not competitive, not strong, not supporting the hospitality and tourism industry, forget about it, okay? That's also key we need to look at. One more thing, now businesses and destinations, you can be the most competitive destination, but crisis, we often face a lot of crises every 3 years, 4 years. How are we responding? It's all about resilience, individuals, businesses, and destinations. COVID was a huge test, and because of COVID, so many employees, managers left the industry. Now we are trying to bring them back. It's not easy. I mean, just many destinations are struggling to find the talent and bring back. That's another thing. And now one more thing is how governments look at the tourism industry. Some governments fully support, some governments they don't understand fully, and many politicians, they believe they know the tourism industry well, and then when you talk to them, they don't really know, or they don't think long term, and they have short-term view, and it's all about winning the next election, and sometimes it may not be good for the industry. Last sentence, at the end, competitiveness is all about how far you are improving the living standards, well-being of local residents and people who live in that destination, that country, that area. That's the ultimate goal, right? You can be the most competitive destination, but if you have so many poor people, so many homeless people, and income distribution, education, a lot of problems, forget it, okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. He has at least 2 journals, Q1 journals. Thank you. Yes. Okay, and Robert Ree, he is waiting long time for this discussion. So you should have come to in person. Okay, Robert, here's my question for you about, Dr. Fevci, he mentioned about the resilience. We just 3 years ago, we big headache of the tourism industry because of pandemic. And that time, after that, we are talking about the resilience of destination, how recover from the disaster to, competing and competitiveness we try to regain again. So, and another question is like, okay, the competitiveness is a fundamental destination competitiveness, a little bit focusing on highlight the boundary of tourism and interact with some other shareholders, stakeholders like transportation or sort of things. But these days, in Korean case, a lot of entertainment and those kind of a new asset of destination competitiveness driving our destination to, revitalized. So here's my two questions: resilience and new, boundary spanning to the entertainment area and the recreative destination competitiveness. What's your opinion about that?
Well, I thought you were going to save some easier question for me, and because all the brilliant panelists have answered give some very, very nice answers. First of all, I would like to apologize for not being able to come. This is I fully intended to be part of this very exciting events and seeing lots of friends over there, and it actually does make me feel a little bit jealous of the nice, delicious food you hosted, Fabzi. And unfortunately, due to a last-minute change of schedule, I couldn't be here. But I do appreciate the efforts and willingness in terms of organizing this event, and I'm grateful to be part of it. Among all the panelists, I guess I'm the least qualified in terms of answering some of these questions regarding destination competitiveness. Same as Phil, I'm no expert in destination competitiveness, but also similar to Phil, that in my previous life before entering academic, I worked in the tourism DMOs for 5 years, so that gave me the initial observation and some of the firsthand perspective, observations of the tourism, the complexity of the tourism industry. So in a way that I think that going back to the fundamental question of why we study destination competitiveness is probably on one hand illustrates the highly complex nature of our this phenomenon called tourism, that to the extent that many of us are trying to approach it, analyze and understand it from, try to find some order in this pretty chaotic phenomenon. And among them, this, destination competitiveness seems to be a way to give us some guardrails, some yardstick to understand this and give it a little bit kind of, from academic perspective, give it a little bit kind of way to analyze and understand it. And then as for your question regarding the resilience and essentially the non-conventional tourism the non-conventional attractiveness of different potential tourism offerings. This is essentially part of the reason that's why we need to, from time to time, to go back to this idea of destination competitiveness. Not necessarily just for the sake of publishing another paper or creating another model, but because of the very fundamental context that we're functioning in is changing and evolving all the time. COVID has taught us a lot of lessons, and the post-COVID world is very different from the pre-COVID. As a result, we are facing a new generation of tourism supply and a new generation of tourists. So we have to revisit the fundamentals, and to that and I think some of these issues need to be revisited, including resilience and including the what actually fundamentally attract tourists. I'm not sure I'm capable of doing a better answer, but this is my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. And next year, Vietnam Da Nang, then you're in person. Promise, okay? Okay.
Promise.
It's a question for Uli. I want to ask you really this hard question for you. You're from Austria, which is a beautiful, city there, Vienna, Innsbruck, and a beautiful city, and people really wish to visit those countries for enjoying destination, and the aesthetic, buildings and traditional, authentic, stuff. There is inherited asset of tourism, and we say there is a comparative advantage. But here in Korea, we don't have that kind of we have, but not like yours. But these days, as you well known, in Korean entertainment stuff, driving the youngsters to visit Korea, not because of inherited, asset of tourism competitiveness, but newly generated, contents. So, what's your opinion about that?
Well, I think actually you're assuming that a lot of people want to visit Austria in the US. When people ask me where I'm from, I get blank stares, and very often they say, oh, it's yeah, kangaroos, and is it really hot there right now? And so I think I'm going back to the mind of the consumer, right, and what matters to them and their passion, because we discussed that in the Cape culture session, and I think that is something that if you think about destination competitiveness, it's really stirring up these passions that make people come to a destination. And I think that's a big problem for smart tourism, because no one is going to a destination just because there will be Wi-Fi or the technology experience will be seamless, right? It's a little bit of a hygiene factor, right? Smartness. If it's not there, then it disrupts your experience. But just the smartness itself is not going to attract anyone. So people go to Austria because they grew up watching The Sound of Music, right? And so they feel nostalgic. They feel they feel a connection to the place, where maybe they grew up, watching Amadeus, and they're into Falco or whatever, or it's the food, the Sachertorte and all that. So they have these passions that they're trying to pursue, and so from a destination competitiveness point of view, then it's not so much about the resources you have on the ground, but the resources you can activate, the passions you can activate in people's minds.
Okay, Catherine, as far as I know, you have highly interest in gender issue, gender equality, whatever. Is it related to destination competitiveness for gender equality, gender issue?
Totally.
Oh,
Because
really?
we already know that 50% of the tourism workforce is done by women. The work is done by women. So if you don't champion this, then how can you where do you find the labor? Where do you find the decision-making skills? Where do you find the leadership? So definitely having women on decision boards and destination management will definitely help. And I also want to add to what Uli has said. I recently actually took this destination competitive checklist for a regional destination that we were consulting for, and they had big ambitions. They wanted elite travelers who fly into this region by airplane. But when we did their tourism asset analysis, and they have certain assets that can potentially be competitive, but they don't have a buy-in from the tourism providers, because it was mostly catered for the oil and gas industry, and the oil and gas industry was far easier than a new tourism industry. So definitely the passion of the people, the stakeholders who are going to be providing that, if you don't have a buy-in from them, no matter how much you tick the tourism asset boxes and how competitive you think you are, it's not going to happen.
Okay, we are receiving, we are talking about the destination competitiveness with experts, and then their opinions is so worthwhile to listening. And from now on, some of the questions from floor. If you have any comment on the questions, please feel free to ask here. Anyone? Okay. Hayam?
Opinion. Actually, I like Professor Okuma's opinion. The main reason why we are interested in developing competitive model indicators, actually, you're going to find out, identify which sections is so weak, which part is so strong, destination. If we know that, government actually try to improve infrastructure is a weak point. It's to attract visitors, make her, popularity to contribute to the local economy. So, measuring, developing modern indicators, we gotta show is another sector, so central government, to draw fund. Actually, this is going to be very important. That also you point out that is a resident issue, very very important. Already I mentioned that in my presentation, we gotta look at both demand side and supply side. I did not explain in detail my model. Those models encompass like both demand side and the supply side, such as is a policy issue and is a resource mobilization issue, valuation, value creation, like it's in terms of the demand, and inclusive growth, performance. Those kind of things that include is both demand side and supply side. Also, I mentioned that Travel and Tourism Development Index is a TDDI after TTCI. It's developed by World Economic Forum. They emphasize on sustainable, resilient, inclusive future for the destinations. Right, gender equality is going to be related. Also, all the times I like is Boalis's work. He introduced a long time ago 6-8 factors for destination to be competitive: attractions, accessibility, activities, amenities, also ancillary service, something like that. I like that. It's yeah. So all the time I teach my students is 6 elements for to be a competitive destination. So Dr. Wallace is actually developed those concepts. Attraction actually can be a natural attractions or man-made attraction. Entertainment factors will be included attractions, right? So actually we have to look at it's a holistic view to develop a competitive model. Still, we should be interested in, but it's really I was interested in this conference. How does technological advancement reflect developing new competitive model? As I mentioned, that is Philip Law is introduced this immersive experience of buyers, right? using or influenced by technology issue. Actually, technology will influence the visitor's experience, satisfaction. If visitors feel satisfaction, they're going to visit. They're going to make this word of mouth. And the infrastructure will be improved by those results. And we can generate a virtuous cycle in destination.
Thank you very much. I want to ask you another very important issue, congruence, incongruence between, like what you said, is people are, perceived experience and experience, before and after about a certain destination. So who's going to answer for that congruence, incongruence, how we can reduce the gaps between the congruence and discongruence of a destination? Congruence, incongruence of a destination. Okay, question to the virtual, to the up. Robert?
I'm sorry. I
Okay, we are terms here, congruence and incongruence. Congruence is people before we
Yeah, so what they expect to experience, and then when they're actually there, what they actually experience.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Wooly is very much prepared to answer the question, right?
Yeah, I think when we talk about K culture, right, that creates a lot of expectations. And if you think about how media present destinations, it's very different how you see Korea in, these shows, these animated shows, and then you come and see the real world. So I think that has been a problem for film-induced tourism for a long time, that this kind of content creates a fantasy world that is just not at the destination. But on the other hand, I think social media is kind of like, maybe it creates it creates Instagram filters, right? And so you have this very rosy image of the destination. On the other hand, with the live streaming, I see that it's much more about showing the authentic destination. So I think technology plays a huge role in shaping expectations, but also in terms of, still kind of creating unrealistic expectations. And I think virtual reality, in that sense, can do both, right? It can explain, it can have people experience upfront, but then also maybe when the real thing is not there, you could still experience it while you're at the destination, right? So you can be a demon hunter in Seoul, kind of like experiencing that side, because in the real world that's not going to be there. So I think technology has multiple roles to play here, and it's not either or.
Okay, thank you. We have 10 minutes left, so I want to get, it's not question, I just want to listen for our audience and the virtual audience. Say something about your opinion or point of view of destination competitiveness or smart tourism, whatever. Okay.
Okay, thank you. There was a question asked about if I cannot get the data to do the research I want, what I can do. That was a question. I think at that time I wanted to comment on this one. Because think about this kind of research related to destination competitiveness. You can see we can have those kind of data like structured data, how much investment your company put into this, your development. This data you can know, and then you can crawl and monitoring those kind of perception data like sentimentals or advertisement as exposure. You can have this. But you may not control, you may not have access to your competitors' data. How much they put there and what is their payroll, and that kind of payroll, in game theory is kind of payroll. And you cannot control or access those kind of visibility kind of data. So when we approach this problem, like I say, experience-based as a destination competitiveness, and we thought about what kind of data we can have, and then whether those kind of data available for us can support this kind of research we want to do, or whether we can make any kind of contribution there. So for the question as asked before, that's my comment will be, get whatever you can get, and then if you cannot do the research you want to do, rephrase and redefine your research question, and that might be helpful. And then another thing that's about the competitiveness, my thinking could it be something similar to the artificial intelligence. Nowadays you can see, seems that every 2 or 3 years AI is making a buzz, but if you, like me, I was trained as an AI researcher, but for whatever reason, I become professor in cybersecurity, okay? And I'm doing tourism research and smart hospitality kind of research as a hobby. But then if looking at those kind of different areas, we can see the definition of intelligence actually get changed. And when we are talking about destination competitiveness or related competitiveness, we can also, from Professor Kim's talks, that there are a lot of changes. Nowadays, you can see the capability of the destination, of a organization could be part of it. Previously, we said whether your organization have data or own the data, but now should it be data equipped. With those kind of data, what you can do to establish or maintain your perceived, the perceived as competitiveness among those people that you treat them as a potential as customers. So that are some kind of things which maybe we can see there's a shift in those kind of definition about competitiveness. We may require those kind of organizations to be, say, adaptable. And then to be very quickly, there's a monitor the data and making this kind of response, that's a decision, and also maybe know that what might be the consequences. So that is my comments about something related. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, I like this panel because competitiveness research basically is economic research question. But then we have different opinions from different perspectives. Actually, it is a very good panel, but from economics perspective, basically a destination competitiveness is looking at how the destination can produce the goods and services that meet tourist demand, and also how the destination actually use the existing resources or infrastructure to improve the efficiency of the production process, and also enhance the well-being of its citizens, and also the efficiency of governance, plus perhaps technology smartness. Now how this actually combined can make a destination competitiveness. Although the research on this area perhaps is not published as much as before, but I do encourage our young academics and the students do look at this issue, especially study Professor Kim's articles, and to get insight and continue this line of research.
So I like what Professor Song said, and there are two aspects on top of that. One is, how do you actually use technology to optimize competitiveness? And how can you improve the competitive advantage based on technological innovations that will enable you to perform better than competitors? That's aspect number one. Aspect number two is that when we start working on competitiveness about 25 years ago, we are always thinking about the customer, the consumer, the person who is coming to visit the destination. Now, increasingly, we're looking into the resident. We increasingly look into the local people, and we say that it's not possible to have competitiveness unless it is a very competitive place to live, unless people really enjoy where they live and they've got excellent conditions. So it's not only about the visitors, but it's for the whole range of the different stakeholders at the destination level. And that's it. And AI is going to change all that and will keep me sleepless for many, many nights trying to see how is that going to operate. Thank you.
You're the only one who gets applaud. Yeah. Why? I wonder why. But let me try. I don't know. It's a useful concept, competitiveness, but sometimes I feel like the tourism community or the industry is kind of helpless, right? Because there's a lot of things that you really don't have control over, right? You know, think about the U.S. as the tourist destination. You know, when the president said, well, Canada is going to become the 51st state of the U.S., then the Canadians are coming, right? It's just one word, right? This is a huge impact. And I feel, this is something that we have to put competitiveness into a larger context. Yes, we can build capacity, right? This is the best we can do. Capacity in terms of using technology to assist, to enhance the experiences. But end of the day, there's only so much we can do. This is kind of my pessimistic view of looking at the destination competitiveness. It's political, highly political, right? It's really contextual. So that's kind of a grain of salt I want to share with everyone.
Okay. From my perspective, we really need to think about competitiveness for what purpose, like Phil said. And I think the original notion of economic growth is definitely not compatible with what destinations are experiencing. And so refocusing kind of like the end goals, competitiveness in terms of what is going to be really, really important.
I'm going to challenge the very term that we use, competition in destination competitiveness. I think that's a very masculine term, and I want to look at it from the other perspective, a feminist perspective. And instead of calling it destination competitiveness, why not destination magnetism or allureness or something? Because I'm looking at my client, which is Bhutan, and Bhutan doesn't want to compete. It just wants to be good at what it does, and it takes the wellness framework, and that's their destination strategy.
Local residents, that's the key for competitiveness. Use technology and regeneration, because technology is shaping many things. And my last comment, Julmo, you are the funniest and the best moderator.
You are real competitiveness editor.
And then
the most competitive editor.
And I want to thank you and your team for organizing this wonderful conference. It's a niche conference, small conference, but it's great to interact with many colleagues, many friends here. It has been very fruitful discussions, and then a lot of good connections. And thank you very much.
Okay, we have another player up there, the virtual. Please, 1 minute, your opinion.
Well, I think the very idea of tourism and its boundary needs to be regularly revisited. And when we talk about competitiveness, we need to embrace a broader understanding, hopefully, to what we mean by tourism and to the potential benefits and weakness that it can generate. And meanwhile, I very much echo what Fevzi was saying, and thank you so much for stating this great conference. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, all the player and
Yes.
the mentors and the distinguished professor, and also the presenter, Dr. Cholon Kim.